Magnetic Rag, live at Small. Spike Wilner with Jotan Silberstein on guitar, Paul Gill on bass, and we have Spike Wilner on the line. Spike, welcome to WPFW.
Thanks, Rusty. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's really great to have you. So Spike, you are really, known for what you're doing with Smalls and with Mesro, but you're also an incredible pianist. And tell us how you got into playing jazz in the beginning.
Well, I started piano very young, and my very first love was ragtime music when I was a kid, and started playing that music very young. Scott Joplin rags. Mm-hmm. And then I was born here in New York City, but when I was a teenager, my dad got a job out in St. Louis, Missouri, so I went out there, and there was ragtime music out there, and also an excellent jazz program at our high school that got me kind of playing. And then I decided to come back to New York City and practice jazz music, and 30 years later, I haven't stopped.
So you actually in the home of Scott Joplin for a minute there, where ragtime really started. So what helped you switch into the jazz performer that you are?
Well, at the high school I was at, there was a few good guys that were really into jazz, and they're all professionals today. Actually, Peter Martin, pianist, excellent pianist, Todd Williams, Jeremy Davenport, a few guys that were Neil Kane, guys that are all actually still active and playing today, and got us interested in more modern stuff. And then I ended up auditioning for the New School for Social Research. Had an experimental jazz program that was headed by a great saxophonist and jazz guru by the name of Arnie Lawrence, who's now passed away.
Yes, we really miss him, boy.
I miss him terribly, actually. We were very close to him, and he started this program at the New School, which I auditioned for and became part of that initial class there, which involves some very talented students, including Peter Bernstein and Larry Golding, Jesse Davis, Brad Meldau, Samia Hell, Joe Strasser, not to mention some guys that ended up becoming very famous in the rock field, like the Blues Travelers and that. Yeah, they all were there at the same time.
No slouch as well. It's quite a class. Jeez.
Yeah.
Boy.
So, and that was in the bosom of New York City, right? A lot of jazz going on. So that's really, once I got there, I was just inundated.
And you started performing at Smalls a lot before you became more involved. Tell us about how that transition occurred.
Well, Smalls opened in 1994 by a man named Mitch Borden, who is still my partner to this day and a beloved friend. And that club Smalls came into being right at the time that the Village Gate was about to close. Okay. And so there was no overlap. But there was this kind of hole in the jazz scene there, and Smalls a lot of the young guys started going there. One of the things about Smalls at that time was that he didn't get his liquor license, and so he decided to just let people bring their own beer or wine into the club. And it ended up becoming very popular with college kids. It became a real kind of crazy hang down there. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the the younger generation, like guys my age at that time, in the 20s, late 20s, early 30s, started making it their home, and that involved a lot of guys who are now quite famous, like Kurt Rosenwinkel and Jason Linder, Omer Avital, and guys like that were playing. They were just youngsters at that time, or Mark Turner, for that matter, or Chris Potter, all part of that scene. So I was involved with that right away, actually. Within the first few months of the club opening, I started playing there, and Mitch ended up giving me a job hosting a jam session that was on Tuesday nights that started at 2 a.m., went from 2 to 6. So I would go to bed and then set my alarm and wake up and get on a train, go downtown and get to Smalls by 2 a.m., play my show, and then, I did that for years, actually. So,
boy, how late, from 2 a.m. until when?
Next 6 a.m.
Wow.
6, because that club was never closed at that time because there was no liquor license. Just ran around the block.
That's right. Okay. Yes. Jeez. But liquor is important in terms of maintaining a club. So how did that transition work out in terms of becoming, I guess, legit in the city in terms of not being a carry-in place?
Well, what happened was, there was a big sea change with the city, especially after 9/11. Everything changed in terms of the economics. The original Smalls space that we have here at 183, because it's the same space that since Smalls opened, but initially it was about $800 a month for the basement that we were renting for Smalls. So Mitch just charged $10 at the door and bring your own, and that was fine. The problem was that after 9/11, the rent, I think, went up 10 times better, like $8,000 a month. And it became impossible for him to run it in the way he had run it before. And then he ended up closing it down. And then another guy got the space and put in money to renovate it, and he actually got a liquor license for it and reopened it as a totally different spot. And it was just a failure. People didn't really dig it. And so he ended up finding Mitch and saying, look, let's reopen Smalls, and you manage it, and I'll own it. And Mitch agreed.
Okay.
So,
wow.
So Smalls kind of reopened, but this time with a liquor license. That went on for a few years. And then that guy realized there was no money to be made in jazz clubs, but he wanted to sell it. And Mitch talked to me about it, and I ended up, putting together a loan for some money and bought the lease and the license from the guy, and then we began running Smalls again. That was in 2007. So I just had my 9th year now as a owner-manager.
Boy, yeah. So owner-manager. And if that wasn't hard enough, another space came along with the name of one of the jazz characters. I guess you could tell the folks a little bit why you came up with the name Mesro. I don't know if too many people are familiar with Really the Blues and one of the great marijuana dealers of the 30s and 40s. But tell us about it.
Well, he was a great musician too. People sleep on him as a musician, but the space across the street from Smalls became available with another basement kind of exactly on the other side of the street. And Smalls has been actually doing quite well in the last few years with in terms of its popularity. And we were getting a lot of runoff, and we were thinking about trying to find a place where we could send all the people that we couldn't fit into the club at Smalls. And when that space came open, we decided to just rent it, give it a shot. And it just became a whole thing unto itself. It was like, it kind of developed its own different character and different kind of slant. Mesro was more of a piano room. We kind of, tried to go in the style of Bradley's and do piano duos in there rather than raucous bands and stuff like that. So a little more of a relaxed environment. We call it the grown-up Smalls. It's kind of like a little more chill, a little more relaxed. And we decided on Mesro as a symbol for what we believe in, because, he wrote that book, Really the Blues, and that's all about, first of all, jazz music, and also, Chicago 20s, speakeasies, little basement clubs, that kind of thing. It also means, like, he was one of the very, very, integrationists and, communality between all the races through music, and anti-racist.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, in fact, when he was arrested on a marijuana charge, he passed for black so he could be with the brothers.
He ended up, he ended up, of course, marrying an African American woman living in Harlem, and he was Louis Armstrong's best friend, and he, of course, was also smoking and selling marijuana all the time. He was kind of his thing was like marijuana is a better drug to use than alcohol.
Sure.
So he was always, but and he's a Jewish guy. I don't know. So we chose him. He became our symbol for this place. It's kind of like the jazz spirit. That's all.
Well, the club is far more famous than he is. I would say it's really.
Well, the funny thing is that exactly across the street from Mesro is where Nick's was. Nick's in the Village, which was a very famous jazz club all the way from the 40s on. That was like a trad club.
Sure, Dixie.
And Mesmer was there all the time hanging out. Eddie Condon was the house band.
Right,
so
sure.
Mesmer was probably right on that corner most of the time anyway, smoking a joint, right?
That's great. And also, though, revisiting the vibe of Bradley's, too, I think really helps make it.
Well, I'm a piano player, and I wanted to have a room for all the piano players in New York. So that was my idea. No. And we have an unbelievable piano in there. We got endorsed by Steinway for a Steinway A, that brand new one in there, $75,000 instrument, and it's just between the acoustics of the room and the piano, it's a piano player heaven.
Well,
very small.
You're going to be playing a Steinway this Monday.
That's right, at the Arts
Club. Absolutely, it's the Arts Club at Washington. It's really an elegant old building that has housed this club for years.
Right,
and the piano's been refurbished. We really, I've been going to just about all of the performances there, and they just been marvelous. So you're really going to enjoy it. So you do a lot of original material. How do you approach composition and playing standards? How do you mix it up?
Well, my thing is that I love melodic invention, and I'm a very staunch believer in the idea of improvising the melody rather than abandoning it, like a theme and variation thing. And that was the traditional way jazz musicians improvised, really all the way up, I'd say, to John Coltrane in a way, because even Charlie Parker was always really playing the melody, and it wasn't until really, in the 50s or so where the melodic improvisation was abandoned for harmonic, pure harmonic thinking or, rhythmic, But I'm a modernist, honestly. I have two teachers that I thought had very strong influence on me in the way I think. Because one is Jackie Byard, and the other was a pianist by the name of Harry Whitaker, who may not be known to people that much. But thinking about both those guys, and also one other guy who I should mention, who I've come to love in my music career, is Marshall Salal. But I'd say all these guys have this kind of stream of consciousness, improvisational concept where with very little preparation, just try to take a theme that's familiar and see what happens. And I like that too. I like to, I'm like a Zen Buddhist. I jump off the 1,000-foot pole whenever I get a chance.
So glad you mentioned Jackie Byard. He was a good friend and just a marvelous personality, and just an incredible pianist. Certainly needs to be more recognized today than he is. Absolutely. And
he was a great teacher. Yeah. He was the guy that really showed me, the Art Tatum and the walking tenth stuff and the harmonies of that time period. He really had it codified in a way that was very clear, and he was just but he was a completely, he was like stride piano and also complete avant-garde player.
Oh, absolutely.
At the same time.
No.
And that's what I always love, is having it all. Like, I don't want to be in one style. I like to have them all to eat and digest and play whatever I like.
So, have you worked out your set list yet for Monday? What do you anticipate doing?
Well, I never make a set list ever.
Okay.
For any show, so it's contrary to my thinking, because I just like to see what the vibe of the room is and what I might do. But generally speaking, especially solo, I like to play just like old American songbook standards and improvise on them. So I don't know, old tunes. I like old tunes. I take requests too. I like it when people request tunes, so I don't even know what's going to be asked for in advance. And I don't know what else I might play. We'll find out, I guess.
Well, it's been very improvisational with all the other artists also. Want to mention, folks, that we're speaking with Spike Wilner. He's going to be performing this coming Monday at the Arts Club at Washington, and you can go to the Piano Jazz website for tickets and information. It's pianojazz.com, and for tickets you can go to pianojazz.com/ACW. And again, Bernard Thompson's been doing a marvelous job with all the artists he's been presenting at this series.
Yeah.
So this has been, and he tells me he does a lot of hanging out at both Smalls and Mesro. So
yeah, I see him all the time.
So,
He's a great guy, and he's doing a great thing by doing all this, promoting music. It's a very noble thing to do.
oh, absolutely. No. I'm really excited about seeing you. We met actually some years ago when you played at the Tacoma Park Jazz Festival, of all places. I'm trying to remember who you were with.
Tacoma Park, where is that?
It's right outside Maryland.
That was with Chuck Red's band.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yes. In fact, Chuck Red's got a gig next weekend that I promised to mention, play his music. So, absolutely. Yeah. So Chuck said in the Facebook comments that he's going to be coming to see you on Monday.
Oh, great! Yeah, he's a dear friend and one of really fine musician, vibraphonist and drummer, and an all-around terrific guy, actually.
Absolutely. So we're going to continue now musically. I want to really thank you for calling in, and I want to ask you about this piece I have queued up. It's called Upsaka.
No, it's pronounced Upasaka.
Upasaka? Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually a Sanskrit term, which means a Buddhist layman, or rather not necessarily a guy who's a monk, but someone who's chosen to live in the world and work in the world as a normal guy, but still has a monk in his heart. So that's an Upasaka. And if you're a female, it's Upasika.
Okay, so and I guess with all that you're doing, it's amazing that you're able to keep up with everything. But this will be a nice break for you to come down to D.C. and just play some.
Looking forward to it, Russ.
So thanks again for calling in, Spike Wilner, again at the Arts Club of Washington this coming Monday, and we're looking forward to seeing you.
Me too. I hope folks come out for it.
We'll see. We got a lot of folks. It'll be filled up. See you then.
Great. Thanks, Rusty. Bye-bye.
Bye.